And welcome to another episode of Unstuck with Hypnopunk Transformation with Edge. Today's episode is going to be about breakups, whether they be romantic breakups, breaking up from work, breaking up friendships, potentially even breaking up with yourself. What are they, and how to deal with the grieving process of breakups? And as always, I'd like to thank everyone who's been leaving the 5-star reviews on iTunes or whatever mode you are listening to this podcast, leaving the 5-star reviews and leaving a couple of sentences. Thank you so very much. Because how this works, ladies and gentlemen, is these podcasts are free. And I put out these content one a week for you and I ask for nothing in return. What motivates me, what inspires me to put these out there, to put this gold content out there for you to use to transform your life, is to know you're downloading it. And I know you're downloading it because it's been downloaded well over 1,000 times in such a short time already. Is when I see those reviews, it inspires me, it lets me know the message getting out, and it makes me want to do these more. Also, as well, when you do leave a 5-star review and a couple of sentences, then shoot me over an email at mail@lukenosis.com. Mail, M-A-I-L, at lukenosis, Lukenosis.com. Mail@lukenosis.com. Give me a screenshot and we'll book you a free 30-minute unstuck power session. It's 30 minutes via Skype on the phone where we deal with one area of your life, one subject in your life that's been keeping you stuck, and we have a power session to determine, to reframe, to find some ways potentially out of that to enable you to become unstuck. And all you got to do is leave that review. Thank you so very much. So back to the show. Breakups, how are they? How do they work? Well, we know how they work. They make us, most of us, feel like shit, right? When we break up, or in theory, when somebody breaks up with us, makes us feel even worse. Now, what happens in your mind? What happens in your body after a breakup with a significant other? Be that in a relationship, be that in a friendship, be that even getting fired from work, is you go through the grieving process. Your body, your mind does not know the difference between a breakup and somebody dying. Hence, you've heard the 7 stages of grieving. That's what happens when you end a relationship or have a relationship ended on you. Is you grieve. Because you're not getting certain brain chemicals met. You're not getting the oxytocin secretion in your brain that makes you feel loved and accepted. The dopamine spikes of excitement with your former loved one, and the serotonin of feeling balanced, of feeling happy. Those chemical needs, brain chemical needs, are not getting met, which can lead people after a breakup feeling depressed, anxious, sad, even suicidal out there. And there's a very real thing that's happening in your brain, hence why you're feeling those ways. Now, I'm sure we've all been through a breakup. I'm sure we've all had our heart broken at some point. And if you haven't, then you haven't lived. Now, how do you get over a breakup? Now, here's the thing. I'm a big believer that when something dies, when somebody dies or when something dies, there is a process that happens inside. It's called grieving. Now, whether that grieving takes a day, a week, a month, or a year, it takes as long as it's going to take. However, if you're still grieving over someone that did pass away or a relationship that did end, and we're a year or two after it now, in my model of the world, that's undue suffering that you have in your system. Okay? I think it's totally appropriate if you're in a relationship with someone for some time and it ended, that you do feel that grieving process for a while. You do feel a bit sad, because you're not getting those chemical needs, those brain chemicals needs met inside your mind, and in turn met in your body. So you are going to feel a certain way, and you probably do need to process that for a certain period of time, and you need that, and it doesn't feel good. It certainly feels the opposite of that. It feels very, very bad and very, very sad at times. However, we need to go through the process, and the idea is to go through the process as fast as is possible in order to process those emotions and what those people meant to you, so then you can get on with your life and get to the next stage in your life. So this is about giving yourself the gift of going through that grieving process, but then coming out on the other end. An example of this would be, I had a relationship that I came to Canada for, actually. So back about 9 years ago, I It must have been about 9, 10 years ago. I met somebody in the UK that I fell in love with, and this person was moving back to Canada, and she asked me if I wanted to come with her back to Canada. Now, I loved this girl, and I was getting a little bit older in my life. I was coming to about 30 years of age, and I realised that every time I'd risked big in my life, things had paid off. So we fell in love, and she moved back to Canada a few months later, and she asked me to move over. So I left my job. Um, I left a current relationship that I was in the UK. I gave up 80, 90% of my belongings, including my apartment, and I moved to Canada. No friends, no family, no job, nothing other than her. I'd never even been to Canada before. So I moved over, and I made a mistake, actually. I made a mistake of not building up my life. I built up a career at the time I was doing another kind of career, more involved in fitness, although I was doing some hypnosis stuff, but certainly not as much as I'm doing now, and transformation between the ears type work. But I didn't take the time to develop it because my friends were her friends, my family was her family. And after about 4 or 5 years, we broke up. She wanted to break up with me. And it was at the time, it was devastating for me because I didn't build up an infrastructure in my life outside of her. My whole system, my whole world was built around her. And I know, ladies, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I really want a guy that makes his whole world about me. You think you want that until he does that, and then you just don't like it. Trust me. And that's kind of what happened in this relationship. So we broke up, and I realised I had a couple of options at that point. I had no friends. I had a job that I was doing pretty well at, but I had no social circle. They were all her friends, all of her family, which I realised were now pretty much off limits. And I realised I had a couple of choices. The choices were I could go back to England and feel like a complete failure. I could kill myself. Or I could use this learning, I could use this tool, I could use this understanding, this process to transform my life, know what I truly wanted in my life and what I didn't want in my life, and attract the kind of person that I really wanted in my life, that I really truly wanted, not just physically but emotionally and value-wise. And so the first couple of weeks went by, and I thought this was the only girl for me, and I really loved her, and using my skills I'd be able to get her back. And she would come to the conclusion that she'd made a mistake, and I had this whole plan worked out to kind of manipulate her back into my life, because I realized I thought wrongly that we were there for one another, and we were the only ones for one another and stuff like that. And it was a really, really dark period for me, actually. But I determined, listen, I'm not going to kill myself, and I'm not going to go back home and feel like a total failure. I'm going to use this, I'm going to learn, I'm going to become more. So after a couple of months, when I realised that the first guy that she started dating after me impregnated her, and that she was indeed pregnant with another man's child, I realised at that point that I was not going to get back to her. It wasn't going to work, and I had to let go. This was a few months after our breakup, maybe 6 months or so, and but I still felt this huge grieving because I'd spent essentially 5 years with this person in a foreign country, putting all my time and energy and love into this person, and then with me at the time, I'm sure, and now it wasn't there, so I was not getting that oxytocin hit, that love hit, that connection hit with anyone. I had invested this time and energy, and if I was going to find other people, how much more time and energy was going to have to put in order for it perhaps not to be the type of person that I wanted to be with. And I, again, was obsessing with this person and just feeling this grieving of feeling anger and loneliness and longing and sadness and depression and anxiety. But I kept moving forward, and I was living in the same apartment that we'd shared for some years, and all my memories, everywhere I looked in this apartment, even though she'd taken out all of her stuff, was where her stuff was my memories of being with her. And every place that I'd been to in Canada, every memory that I'd pretty much created in here were memories with her. I had not created any memories of me enjoying Canada on my own or with other people. They were all centered around her. So it was very, very tough, because everywhere I looked in my apartment or in Canada where I was in Ottawa, all I saw was her, and I was consistently having that scar, wasn't able to heal, and it was consistently getting salt rubbed into it day after day after day. And I remember speaking to a very famous hypnotist out there, um, and he actually gave me a Skype session that I was very, very thankful for. And he said to me, he brought up the concept of wherever you are in this breakup, even if you're in the same apartment, or about all the memories that I just mentioned, it's like, move out of the apartment, build up some new memories, and if you can't move out of the apartment and change everything in the apartment so it's completely different, so those old anchors are now displaced, so everywhere you look is not reminding you of my past love. And I actually ended up moving. It was about 9 months after, and just by moving out of the apartment and leaving all those memories behind, it cleared about probably about 70% of the bad feelings and the grieving process I had from the breakup there. But there was still some left. There was still resentment. There was still anger. There was still loneliness. There was still sadness. And yes, there were other girls in that time and other relationships that I had in that time, but nothing quite got to that level for me for one reason or another. And I remember going to the Canadian Hypnosis conference, the first one about, I guess it was about 5 years ago, and doing one of the seminars there with a lady, and she was using a form of NLP that we call the submodality switch, and this was specifically for I'd been trained to use it for taking something that you like something small, like let's say I like potato chips or crisps, to my English fans out there, and I didn't like broccoli, but I wanted to eat less chips or not like chips. Then I'd get the picture of the chips in my mind, I'd see where they were situated in my mind, any sounds, any feelings that were situated to it, and then I'd look to see where broccoli was, the thing that I disliked, see where that picture was it right or left, near or far, black and white or colour, if there were any taste, any smells, any sounds, any feelings that were attached to it, and I'd map across the coordinates of the thing that I did like into position of the thing that I didn't like, and it would essentially not make me want to eat chips anymore. So I knew that system for something that would seem as small as a craving, but in this class I learned to do that with the situation of somebody that I loved, that I needed to let go of, to a place of somebody that I didn't love, or somebody that was neutral in my life. And I did this mapping across the submodalities of the person that I loved, that I wanted to forget or not feel feelings for, to the person that I disliked or was neutral for. Can't remember which it was. And I did it, and I made that click, and in that moment about 90% of any sadness, anger or longing was just gone, but just by essentially moving the picture in my mind to a position of the position of the thing that I didn't like or was neutral about. And then subsequently the other 10% over time just kind of healed itself. Because there's a thing about breakups: give someone enough time, enough distance, your mind is going to repair itself. But if every day the wound is not allowed to heal because you're living in the same apartment, the same house, you're going to the same social clubs, the same places, it's never getting to heal. So it's always being agitated. You need to get yourself out of that environment. For me, it was getting myself out of the apartment. And it was to open up to new memories, to give myself many new memories, to build up new friendships, to have new experiences in Canada without this person. So now I was flooded with just as many different events, just as many different experiences without this person anymore. So I had the ability to be able to contrast both of those. That was a big thing. And again, like I say, essentially just mapping across the position to someone that I loved and liked but had to let go of, to a position of someone that I didn't like or neutral about, and it just changed. Giving someone enough time and distance, in turn, most of the times they work out their longingness, they work out their broken heart and their limitations about it by having new relationships. Because I don't know if you're going through a breakup now or you've gone through breakups, but give someone enough time and energy. The unconscious mind has this amazing ability to kind of eventually, after time, to just let go, to heal itself, as long as you're taking away as many of the triggers as you can and have the awareness to let go. And I had that, and it was one of the top 3, top 5, most painful things that happened to me in my life up to that point. But with enough time, with enough distance, with making up new memories, with collapsing those anchors in my spatial environment, it gave me the ability to heal that wound, and it was a profound impact. So I'd advise you, if you're going through breakups and stuff like that, realize you can get through it. You will get through it, given enough time and given enough energy. But you are going to grieve. There is going to be a grieving process, because your body, your unconscious mind, does not know the difference between that, the end of that relationship, and the death of somebody. You are going to go through the grieving. You're grieving that relationship. You're grieving that person. Some people can get through it that quickly. Sometimes it takes people more time if they've invested more time and energy and, what's the word I'm looking for here? Or of a gentle spirit or a gentle soul, should we say. But I'm here to say it will self-correct. There will be other people out there. I've met many people in the last 5 years that I would have never met, and had many experiences of traveling the world and doing things that I love, and helping people and becoming the man I am today and will continue to be. Had I not come through that experience, come out on the other side, if I'd stayed in the experience of being with this person, I would have never had these experiences. I would never be the man I am today. I would never have the successes in my life and in work, and in my understanding of how this works. I used to have the belief that the grieving process, losing someone you loved, be that by death, and sometimes actually breakup's actually worse than death in many ways, because when someone's died, they're dead. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. They are dead. Yet if someone is alive, there's always oftentimes a part of the brain that's like, yeah, but as long as they're still alive, I still have a chance of winning them back. And you always oftentimes play that game with yourself, which is a game of suffering, which is just for chumps, and you end up just prolonging this fucking experience for an exponential amount of time, feeling like absolute shit. But you're giving yourself the ability to simply go through it, realizing there are many other people that you can give yourself the gift to meet. There is not one person for you out there. There is many people out there for you. More people than you ever are going to have the time or energy to meet, that will be great people in your life, even if it's for a short period of time, even if it's not forever or for this life. There are many people, but you got to get out there. You got to meet these people. You got to be prepared. A lot of these people are not going to be your type of people, but it's okay. You got to flip over a lot of stones until you find the gold or the diamonds that's underneath. But this is life. This is the experience. You can overcome this. You can meet better people. You can let go. You can end that suffering. But all you got to do is give yourself permission to feel it, and give yourself permission to feel it for as long as you need to. But if you're feeling it more than a year or so, then you probably are holding on to it. There's no one that you need to. You think about people that have left you in relationships, people that have passed away or died, people that you've loved, that have loved you. Do you really think they want you to continue if they truly loved you, if they continue past, to keep suffering more than a year of suffering? That doesn't mean you forget those people in your life, if they were good people that passed away through no conscious choice of their own. They wouldn't want you to suffer. They'd want you to get on with your life, but you do need to process. You do need time to process that, and it's about processing it in the right way for you, given an appropriate amount of time. So whenever it comes to grieving or breakups, I ask my clients, I'm like, what's an appropriate amount of time for you to grieve or feel sad about this? And they will listen to their gut. I ask them not to listen to their head or listen to their heart, but listen to your gut. And they might say, well, 3 months, a year, 90 days, whatever. And I'm like, great, so you're going to feel this. Here's some tools that are going to help you over that period of time. But you're going to have to go through it. Sometimes in life there's certain things you have to go through. And if you just repress it, it's going to come another way. And don't necessarily be straight away in that position where you need to replace that person who left. No, give yourself the gift of being on your own for a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't have some fun. Doesn't mean you can't meet people. But don't be in a rush to jump into another serious relationship. And that's another thing that bugs me, a serious relationship. Who wants a serious relationship? I've had lots of girls that I have loved in my life, and currently have girls that I love tremendously in my life. I don't want a serious relationship with any of them. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean I don't care about them. It doesn't mean that I don't want them to be in my life for the foreseeable future. It just means serious. Why do we want something serious? I want someone that I love, that loves me, that I do in my life, that we can have fun with one another, that we can have experience with one another. And as long as we're both making one another feel good, we stay together. But when that stops and we stop making one another feel good, we go our separate ways, because you don't own anybody. You don't own anybody, and nobody owns you. So have a life, meet lots of people, build lots of amazing relationships. Some that will last an hour, some will last a day, some will last a year, some will last 10 years, some might last you the rest of your life. Be an active creator in that. Don't just be in a relationship because you don't want to be alone. Give yourself the gift of being alone. Feel being alone. I'm not talking about going your own way and saying all men or all women are bad and I'm never going to be with another man or woman again. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but give yourself the gift of, you don't need somebody to complete you. You're complete enough all by yourself. And then when the time's right, give yourself the gift of actually being open to meet people, to now enable them to have better lives, to enable you to have better lives. So two people come together and your life is even better. It's not a 50% and 50%, it's 100% and 100% coming together. But don't always think, oh, I've just got an hour relationship, I need one straight away. No. Live in that water for a while of that uncertainty, of that grieving. Feel it, process it, and when it's done, then you'll be far more open to meeting new people and having more successful relationships and learning from your lessons. So to summarize, you're going through a breakup right now and you're feeling you're grieving, you're feeling sad, you're feeling heartbroken. It's okay. You're probably supposed to feel that way. Now, if you've been, ask yourself, how long is it appropriate for you to feel this way? And trust whatever number comes up. I'm going to tell you, if it's more than a year, you've got to do some work there, because you don't need to grieve anyone for a year. I don't care how long they've been in your life. It doesn't mean you don't forget them. Doesn't mean you don't still care about them, but I mean you don't need to grieve and be stuck, okay? Because the whole purpose of this show and what I do is helping people become unstuck. And then changing the environment that you're in, potentially. If you shared a home together, changing that home, moving somewhere else. If you can't afford to do that in this current situation, change the furniture, change the setup of your house, the rooms in it, break up those associations. Also realise that enough time and distance that comes by, your mind will have the ability to start to heal itself like a wound. But you can't keep rubbing it every day, making those phone calls, trying to win that person back when it's done. No, you're opening the wound up and you're not allowing it to heal. And if you don't allow it to heal, it's always going to be septic. Allow it to heal. Give yourself time. That person's broken up with you. Accept it. If there's no way, if it really is no way and it's not going to work, it's not the right thing for you, accept it. Man up, woman up, accept it, feel it, get on with your life. Deal with the sadness. Deal with those. Just realize it's just chemicals in your body, that they will self-correct over time. Also look at breaking up some of the associations where you keep the images, all the association of, oh, Jean, hypothetically, who left me, she was so amazing, she was so beautiful, everything was perfect. I guarantee no matter how perfect or wonderful Jean was, she wasn't so perfect, she wasn't so hot, he wasn't so handsome, he wasn't so magnificent. Focus on the things that weren't so great about them to give yourself the contrast. Take the picture of where something is that you don't want and put it into the position, take the picture of the person that you no longer want or to be feeling, and snap them back into the position of a person or thing that no longer means anything to you, so you don't feel those feelings. You can research this by looking at NLP, mapping across techniques out there, free of charge, I'm sure, on YouTube or the Google. Use your Google machine there. It will take too much time to describe. It's outside the scope of this program. But do that. Those are some practical things that you can do. So, as I like to finish off the podcast now with the Warrior's Prayer. We face dire challenge and chance. Our lives, our way of life, it hangs in the balance. A fragile glass standing on a wire high above the asphalt. And as we pray for not one drop of rain under an overcast smile over our undercast. You know what? I just messed up the Warrior's Prayer. You know what? We're about one shot here. Recording these in one shot, not multiple shots. So hey, the Warrior's Prayer deserves to be done right. So let's hit restart on your machine right now. You ready? Here we go. We face challenge and chance. Our lives, our way of life, it hangs in the balance, a fragile glass standing on a wire high above the asphalt, as we pray for not one drop of rain under an overcast sky. And yet I smile. We will fight and we will bleed, and yet I smile. We shall face men, some cornered into their roles by circumstances, some desperate murderers thrilled by blood. We shall end them all. And as our charge this day, as is our sorrow, and yet I smile. We will leave loved ones to traverse a dangerous road, rushing out of peace in war, and yet I smile. For we will mine glory from the wrath of struggle this day. We will honour and protect this bastion of life in a land of dead. And we will win. You trust the King, we will win. And I smile and I laugh and I rejoice this day. For on this day we are joined in purpose and vision. We are of a singular heart and mind, and on this day we are one. We are one. We are one. Always believe. Hypnopunk.